Hello everyone. It's James again. And before I start today's video, I just want to quickly say, all work in this video contains 100% original content of and by myself, James Smith, otherwise known as Bgood 4000, and was uniquely created with NAWMAL software, by myself, James Smith. As I purchased commercial rights from NAWMAL to produce my unique and original video with this software. Commentary is uniquely my own thoughts, feelings, and expressions. Now that I have that out of the way, I do hope your day is going way better than fantastic and your journey to self-betterment is going way better than fantastic as well. Today I want to talk about something very important. And that is, why are we seeing an increase in toxic and narcissistically abusive relationships? And the reason is the slow methodical process of what many in the narcissistic abuse community call ambient abuse. You see, in our world that has been what appears to be an agenda to control and rule over the masses of people, and to steer the people in this direction and that direction. Well, how do you do it? You bust down and ruin any way this person can build a successful life, an autonomous life. Now, though narcissism has always been around, it was a bit easier to pair up with someone that had the same values and morals and beliefs as yourself. Likely you met each other because they lived in the same neighborhood as yourself. And you both went to the same schools growing up. So you had many years to see if their behaviors lined up and stayed consistent. How did they act when they were under pressure? How did they deal with problems? Did they fight? Did they steal? You know, the narcissism of my mother comes from her mother. My grandmother and grandfather on my mother's side of the family didn't grow up together. They didn't go to school together. However, they met at work. They were originally from and grew up in completely different states. So my grandfather, I believe, didn't have the chance to see her problems as a child and for many years. And back then, soon after dating, you were married, buying a house, and having children. And by that time it was too late for my grandfather. Now, this is not to say that there aren't people that got suckered by a narcissist growing up and for many years they were their friend, and then when they were grown, they started to date and got married. I'm sure that probably did happen. However, I believe most, not all, but most of these narcissists used what many of the narcissists we've met in our lives. And that is having a limited amount of time to get to know them, and to properly vet them before the love bombing is in full swing and the relationship is moving fast. You know, when I talk to elderly or older couples that seem to be madly in love with one another, they often say they first met when they were both in the 3rd grade or something like that. They knew each other for years and years, and they developed a bond and trust that could never be broken. Now, I'm sure they met other people growing up, but they could tell, wow, this person is always making things up, or they steal, or they fight a lot with others. Sure, they are nice sometimes, but them stealing other kids' bicycles would likely be avoided by someone that had morals and beliefs would avoid. But guess who wouldn't avoid them? Other narcissists. And this is where you would see a slightly smarter cerebral-covered narcissist. They might pair up with an overt and at times clumsy narcissist, because the covered narcissist would always have someone to blame. You see, narcissists are indeed like vampires. Though they love to feed on the innocent, if they don't have their prime food there and ready, they will feed on each other. And years ago, though times were different, and narcissism wasn't a thing you talked about or heck even knew about, but you also didn't talk about certain family dynamics. These things were off limits, and this is why narcissists went undetected for so long. However, I believe they had a fighting chance to properly vet the person they were with if they initially got to meet and know each other when they were quite young. I'm sure if you ask people from that era, they will say, oh yes, there were other boys and girls in the neighborhood, but so and so. was not only attractive to them at the time. They noticed they had an honor and decency about them. It's a process of studying and watching someone for more than 10 years before any dating happens. That's a long time. And if something is going to happen that's bad, it will likely happen within that time frame. Again, we know narcissists, though they show their true self usually within 6 months. Narcissists can hide for years if not decades. But for the most part, 6 months is a good benchmark to at least start with. Well, here's the thing. I believe the evil forces, Satan, and his narcissists that rule this earth, see and know. If this was able to continue, where one parent could stay home, and one could work, and they could properly vet one another to know they were right for each other. If this were to continue, evil would be a dimly lit problem in our world. So what did these evil individuals and narcissists do? They slowly worked on changing culture and how people have relationships. And they did it in a way to where the next generation wouldn't know anything about such changes. They would just know this is how things are now. And how things are isn't very good, as we all know. These long-thinking and planning societal narcissists know that if you have a successful family, it's a wrap for the army of evil and darkness. First, before I go a bit deeper on this, I want to shout out Big Herc 916. He's making more and more content touching on the Bible, the Word of God, and how society has been turned upside down by complete and utter evil. And it's true. Now, this is a guy that made videos about his time in prison, as he robbed a bank when he was young. And he was also a former adult film actor, let's just say. But he put out videos day in and day out, trying to encourage people to stay away from the evil mess, to not get caught up in the chaos that is currently going on out there, because it's all a trap. And he's mentioned as of late many things some have talked about here in the narcissistic abuse community, that he believes because of his faith in God, that these are demonic beings possessing and taking over people to do many of the evil acts that we are seeing in our society these days. Now keep in mind, this is a guy that speaks very matter-of-factly and is very down to earth. However, he mentioned portals and entities. And one has to ask, is that false? I don't think it is. I think that narcissist, or those that are in some way or another compromised. What do I mean compromised? Let's say you are running with a gang, and you are doing all kinds of crazy and evil things to innocent people. Well, in the words of Coolio, even my mama thinks that my mind is gone. You see, Big Herc has talked about before that he knew he shouldn't have been doing the things he was doing. So there was still some humanity there. And this humanity or connection to God allowed him to make a change. But as he's talked about before, while in prison, he would look at some of the people in there, and you could see there was nothing inside of them, that they were just evil. This is either someone born this way, or someone that crossed the line so hard that God likely let them believe their own delusions, as it's mentioned in the Bible. Well, don't you think these are the best people to possess if a demon were to possess anybody? But how do you get people to this fragile state? You start before they are even born. You start before they are even born. To make a world where you are surrounded by evil at all times. And you can't find a husband or a wife that is honest, loving, and that loves and believes in God. Then they flood the music and media and television shows with things that further gets them to act in a toxic way. And before you know it, they become either ripe for being a narcissistic abuse victim, or to become a full-on narcissist. Let's just look at this one example. For many, getting married in a Western culture or society, bachelor and bachelorette parties are not only encouraged, but if you stand up and say, I don't want this to be part of my getting married, it's very likely, and this is extremely telling, that your spouse will shame you into believing that you're just insecure. Look. The reality is these parties are excuses to cheat. It's that simple. But what is so weird? You've dated this person for like 5 years. And if they cheated on you during that time, it would have been a problem, right? But when you're about ready to get married, it turns into, well, they just need one last night of fun. Huh? Can someone explain this to me? I'm just a simple cartoon man just trying to understand here. You dated someone for 5 years, and if they cheated on you during this time, there would be crying, yelling, breaking up, and all kinds of mess. But just because you are going to walk down the aisle now, let's turn a blind eye to the cheating and pretend it didn't happen or it's not happening. Look. Let's say their first and only time doing you wrong, during this entire 5 years, was on their so-called last night. You don't think that it won't happen again at some point and you are okay with all of this? Look. The problem is we have been pushed to accept and start our relationships under evil and twisted premises that have nothing to do with God. And what we get as a result is more evil and narcissism in the world. Every avenue to properly meet someone has been almost cut off, and it's getting more and more difficult. Why is this a problem? Well, when you do meet someone, you have only a short amount of time to vet them. Then you have all of these societal standards that will invade your relationships. And these standards sadly end up in so-called Christian homes. On their last night they are cheating. And the next day they are hung over, saying for better or for worse in the eyes of God, kissing their new spouse on the lips. You just can't make this stuff up. You just can't. But this is what people are following, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. But are caught up and believing these strong delusions. You see, all of this is happening because Satan knows his time is short and he's trying to ruin as many people's lives as possible. Oh. What was interesting was Big Herc was talking about how these demons not only want to ruin their life of the person they are possessing, but to ruin and destroy others around them. Sound familiar, doesn't it? This is the MO of the narcissist. In the process, 9 times out of 10 their life ends in a mess. But along the way they ruin and destroy everyone around them. They see you and they set their mind to making sure your life is cut short. We've seen some of these evil narcissists tell their victims to end themselves, with the hopes they will do so. They push and push and push and push. They twist people's lives up so badly that they don't know which end is up. Or they try to stress them out so bad they have a heart attack or they get sick. Narcissists want to destroy you and end your life, just the same as a demon would. So when people talk about possession and the things we can't see, it completely lines up. The societal narcissists over time have created a world where they constantly have said they are helping us and they want to help us. Just like most of the narcissists in our lives. But with every help, things get worse and worse and worse. More chaos spreads across the earth. And the more the heat of the metaphoric water gets turned up on the metaphoric frog. So why are narcissistic relationships so common? Because it's been engineered to be this way by Satan, his demons, and the narcissists he controls. All the way from the regular narcissist walking down the street, all the way up to the societal narcissists that dictate how society runs and operates. And further proof it's engineered is if they wanted to change things and fix things, they could. They could in the blink of an eye. But they choose not to, because where we are at right now is where they want us to be. This is why faith and the love of Jesus the Christ is so important. He is the way and the truth and the life. Narcissists have corrupted everything or nearly everything. The way through this evil is by faith. And to do as God says. Spend time with like-minded people. Learn from Samson's mistake and don't give up God's secrets of your life to a demon. And build the life Jesus wants you to build. Become a fisher of men. Even if it's something you think is small. That one small thing could have a wonderful and powerful ripple effect. A ripple effect That scares the demons, the narcissists, and Satan. Remember the faith of Job. Remember the faith of Job. Because what we are seeing is engineered. Jesus is sadly pushed out of society as much as the demons can do. And they have done all they can to ruin anything that is holy and right. Knowing this why will allow us to move forward and have a great productive life. The life God made for us to have. With that said, I do hope your day is blessed. And until next time, bye for now. And be good to yourself.